he descended into the land of the dead. For the woman he loved, the rulers of the underworld gave him only one command. As they escaped the darkness, he must never look back, not once, not until they reached the light, but deep within the silent tunnels beneath the earth. Orpheus began to hear nothing at all behind him. No footsteps, no voice, only silence. Long ago, among the mountains and olive groves of ancient Greece, there lived a musician named Orpheus. From childhood, his music seemed touched by something divine. When his fingers moved across the strings of his golden lyre, the entire world appeared to listen. Birds settled quietly in the trees. Rivers slowed their currents. Even wild animals emerged from the forests without fear. People whispered that Apollo himself, god of music and light, had blessed Orpheus with his gift. Kings invited him into marble palaces. Priests asked him to perform within sacred temples, and wherever he traveled, crowds gathered in silence to hear him play. Yet fame meant little to Orpheus, because among all the wonders of the world, there was only one person he truly loved, a young woman named Eurydice. Eurydice possessed a quiet beauty that seemed perfectly at home within nature. She loved the warmth of sunlight through olive branches, the sound of distant rivers, the scent of wildflowers after rain. Together, she and Orpheus wandered through valleys bathed in golden evening light, and as Orpheus played his music, Eurydice laughed beside him. For a time, their world seemed untouched by sorrow. On the day of their wedding, friends and villagers filled the hillsides with celebration. Torches flickered beneath the stars. Music echoed across the mountains, and for one perfect night, Orpheus believed the gods themselves had blessed their future. But in the ancient world, happiness rarely lasted long. Not long after the wedding, Eurydice wandered alone through a forest at dusk. The air was warm. The trees whispered softly in the evening wind. Far away, she could still hear the faint music of Orpheus's lyre. Then suddenly, something moved within the tall grass. Before Eurydice could react, a serpent struck her ankle. The pain came instantly. Its venom spread through her body like ice beneath her skin. Weak and terrified, she collapsed among the wildflowers. By the time Orpheus found her, the last light of day was fading. Eurydice reached weakly toward him, then slowly, her hand fell still, and silence consumed the world. After Eurydice's death, Orpheus no longer played music for kings or crowds. He wandered alone through empty valleys. His songs became filled with grief, and wherever he played, people wept without understanding why. The forests no longer felt alive. The sunlight seemed colder. Even the rivers appeared mournful. At night, Orpheus sat alone beside dying fires, unable to accept that Eurydice had vanished forever into the underworld. At last, driven by grief and desperation, he made an impossible decision. He would descend into the kingdom of the dead and bring Eurydice home himself. Armed with only his lyre, Orpheus traveled to the edge of the world. There, hidden beyond black cliffs and ancient caverns, lay the entrance to the underworld. He descended alone into the darkness. The air grew colder with every step. Strange winds whispered through endless tunnels beneath the earth, far below the world of sunlight. Orpheus reached the river of the dead. Black water stretched endlessly into darkness. A silent boatman waited beside the shore. His eyes were ancient and empty. Without a word, Orpheus lifted his lyre and began to play. The music echoed across the black river like morning carried upon the wind. And for the first time in centuries, the boatman lowered his head in sorrow. He allowed Orpheus to cross. Beyond the river stood the gates of the underworld. Before them waited Cerberus, the monstrous hound with 3 terrible heads. Its eyes burned within the darkness. Its growls shook the cavern walls. But once again, Orpheus played his music. Slowly, the beast grew silent. Its heavy eyes closed, and the guardian of the dead fell peacefully asleep. Orpheus continued onward through endless shadows. Around him wandered countless spirits, silent souls who had forgotten the warmth of sunlight forever. Deep within the kingdom of darkness, upon enormous black thrones, sat Hades and Persephone, rulers of the dead. The halls of the underworld were cold and silent. No living soul had ever entered this place willingly. Yet, Orpheus stood before the gods without fear. Then, he began to play. His music carried love, grief, loneliness, and unbearable longing. The sound filled every corner of the underworld. Even the spirits of the dead paused to listen. And for the first time in countless years, tears appeared in the eyes of Persephone herself. At last, Hades spoke. Orpheus would be allowed to bring Eurydice back to the world above. But there was one condition. As they climbed toward the surface, Orpheus must walk ahead, and until both had reached the sunlight, he must never look back. And so, the long journey out of darkness began. Orpheus walked through endless tunnels toward the distant light above. Behind him, he expected to hear Eurydice's footsteps, but there was only silence. No voice, no movement, nothing. Fear slowly entered his heart. Hadn't the gods deceived him? Was Eurydice truly there? Or was he walking alone through the darkness? Step after step, the silence became unbearable. The tunnel stretched endlessly upward, and just as the first rays of sunlight appeared before him, Orpheus turned around. For one brief moment, he saw Eurydice standing behind him, pale and beautiful within the shadows, her eyes filled with sadness. Her hand reached desperately toward his, and then her form began to fade. Orpheus cried out in horror and rushed toward her. But it was too late. The shadows pulled Eurydice backward into the darkness of the underworld, forever. Orpheus returned alone to the world of the living. But he was never the same again. His music became haunted by sorrow, and wherever his songs echoed, people felt the grief of a man who traveled into death itself for love, and lost everything because he looked back.